was totally unacceptable. He couldn't be instructing his people this way.
What was the instruction from the minority leader? Because we didn't hear that in the video.
The instruction was that the vetting must not go on.
Okay, we saw it.
Yes, the vetting, there will be no vetting. And of course, there will be no vetting, and that they were also not going to leave. So, other instructions came, and so tables were being raised, some sideways of the tables were being raised and dropped, raised, dropped. Eventually, the table tumbled, lost 2 legs, if I recall. Cables were pulled. All this while I was stationed this way and ensuring that we could still work until I cannot took the seat. Then I came and moved in. Even when I moved in, I don't know, those other videos didn't capture. We eventually had to move that table that lost 2 legs and rearrange the front. So where you were sitting, now we shifted another table, but we set it so it became narrow.
Yeah, we have all those videos,
okay,
but
so it became
long,
narrow. So you saw that we eventually tried to restore some order, and was anxious that we could still proceed with the vetting. But the electronic gadgets were completely damaged. So we couldn't do anything. And that was when leader came in to say that we should call it a day.
Leader, you said you did not instruct the majority members to support whatever was going on. Are you proud of those who joined without your instruction? Are you proud of them? And let me also ask whether if they had not joined, you think the distraction or the damage that caused would have even been more than what we experienced?
You see, Chair, in things like this, sometimes we're all human. You needed not to be instructed for you to participate positively, because you saw some of our colleagues practically lifting the seats and dumping them on the table. They'll lift a chair, dump it on the table. It happened for like 10 minutes or 15 minutes. And some even threatened pushing the chairs across to our side. Okay, provocation, but we didn't react. Then now they were lifting the tables, the side of the table, they were flipping it sort of. Now, if you don't go and restore, if you don't go and prevent that from happening, they could flip it and you may get hurt. So, yes, some of my members went there to ask it to stop the flipping of the tables, to prevent it. So they will flip it, they will bring it down. They will flip it, they will bring it down. And it was, I would rather commend them for trying to ensure that order was restored. I would rather commend my members who tried, including myself, that we were trying to restore order.
Yeah, earlier on, one of the marshals appeared before the committee, and I asked whether the intervention of some of our MPs on the majority side was helpful to restore some order here. And he said it was helpful. I also asked whether the intervention of the police officers was too late. And to him, yes, if those people had not intervened at that time, probably much damage would have been done to properties around. As a whip, why did you wait and you didn't instruct majority side to come in as early as possible to support the marshal when the police officers were not around?
The marshal had men here, and he himself, the deputy, came in with the policemen. Now, at the point that the policemen came, our colleagues had massed up this way. The house is divided. The committee will sit. It used not to be the case. previously or in previous years we could mingle. But now they made it a point that when we come, we align. So the majority, we align this way. The minority, they align this way. And they had moved in, even non-members, there were about 15 to 20 MPs on their side who had come in. And they had massed up. So the whole place in the area where you sit now to the left of the chairman was completely densely populated and chaotic. So to ask your men to join, you were really creating problems. So it was good that I asked my men to wait, but those who saw it fit to go prevent the lifting of the tables and the chairs and pulling out of the cables, I should commend them for taking that initiative. Because then it would have been a source for some other inquiry today that I had instructed my men to go to the side that we did not belong. That would have been the point that would have made that I caused my men to come and attack them. Because they were here, they were creating problems. If I had asked my men, they would have said, the chief whip commanded these people to come and attack them. So I'm happy I didn't do that, but I'm also happy that my men who went there didn't participate in what's the expression? In enhancing what they were doing, but to diminish it and to restore order.
Yeah, Whip, can you tell the committee in future if that should happen again, what measures would you put in place to forestall settings?
Thank you very much. I think that going forward, we should have strict protocols. Protocols already exist, practices exist, conventions exist. The caucuses that constitute committees, if you disagree with the committees, first, committee decisions must always be reduced to voting, so that somebody doesn't come later in the day and say that we agreed that we'll do this and you are doing the other thing. Once we agreed on a certain position, let us vote. It becomes the decision of the committee, not a single person's decision. That's one thing I think that we must. That is our protocol, but it appears we don't enforce it strictly. For instance, if there were votes to indicate that for Thursday and Friday, we had voted as a committee to vet 8 persons, or to vet 7 persons, or to vet 6 persons, then the evidence would have been very clear that this, when we say a decision was taken or a decision was not taken, it is the votes that will speak to it. And then
Excuse me, just a quick one. I know that is the ideal situation, yes. But
so
a situation that a minority taking a decision that they will not abide by the rules of the game, and they will always want to go by that tangent. What are we doing?
Now, as leader, I think the prudent thing for any chairman that will be confronted with a similar situation in the future is to change venue. You change venue, and then you report. Because if we have changed, for instance, that Thursday, if we have changed our location to Speaker's Conference Room, for instance, or to any other committee room, I'm sure by the time we would have relocated, order would have been restored. I don't think they would have carried the chaotic scenes here to the new committee room. So change of venue when you are confronted with the matters such as this is also very important, because venue plays a great deal when it comes to these matters. Then 3, we must also insist on having a certain number of persons to invite to support the nominees. the present system, the committee set its own guidelines and said every nominee should come with 10. But we've seen situations where nominees have been here with hundreds of people, even in some cases more than hundreds of people. And so they mill around the presence of Parliament. And some of these non-accredited members filter through to the committee room and the committee's proceedings. And so when there are issues like this, it's very difficult. Then, finally, for me, Mr. Chairman, we must have time frames for the ranking member to pose his questions. It may be a practice that the ranking member will have open-ended, unlimited time to interrogate these matters. But
why only ranking member?
Well, for the members, for members or leadership, the chairman already has a way of determining how long you could go. So chairman could say that every member, you have 3 substantive questions and 3 follow-ups, or 3 follow-ups, or 3 supplementary. So, a member, you know that you have 6 maximum questions, however you frame it. You could do that in 30 minutes, you could do that in 1 hour, but you have 6 questions. But when it comes to the ranking member, particularly on the committee, and I think on other committees as well, they are given so much power to interrogate matters ad infinitum. And I think that it poses a problem. They have such massive power, so they're able to, and they also have follow-ups to other members' questions. So if you have a ranking member who wants to be grandstanding, you really have problems. Your vetting could take days, and he says he has questions he's asking. So those guidelines should be properly streamlined. This will be my preliminary views on this matter as regarding the question posed to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Leader, we have listened to you, and I had some questions for you, but you have already answered part of the questions. But I will still make a follow-up on your submission. You have indicated the difficulties in controlling, particularly the ranking member during the proceedings, because he could go on and on and on. You have this knowledge, and yet you program to have 8 people on a day. Or if you like, you can even reduce it to 6. And from the calculation that we have done, you are probably a 15-member committee. And if each person were to spend 20 minutes from what you have indicated to us, and that means that it's not possible to, practically possible to have the 8 people vetted. Don't you think that you should have had, when you decided that you were going to have 8 people, you should have had a caucus meeting to determine how much time each person should spend, and also limit, even though that is not a practice, limit the ranking members time in terms of, because you had a long business to do. So if you don't discipline yourselves, if you don't you don't allocate time to people, then it is practically impossible for you to complete that work. And so you were going to do, you had proposed something which, in my view, you knew that it was not possible to do. And probably that is the reason why the minority side said that they were tired. And they were tired because they had sat there for a very long time. Is there no way, I said you have already answered part of it, but don't you think that that particular day, if you had had a caucus meeting, probably you would have done better in terms of programming for the 8 people that you wanted to vet that particular day?
Chairman, thank you very much. It wouldn't have been a caucus meeting, but pre-hearing meeting of the committee. Now, we do that every morning before proceedings commences publicly. In fact, if we leave our offices, normally we do the pre-sitting meetings at the conference room of the First Deputy Speaker, Chair. Often, when we leave there, we still hold pre-sitting meetings in one of the holding rooms here, even before we go public. So these are not matters. You and I, we are here. You know how fluid these matters are. Sometimes you plan to vet 4, and you time yourself that for each candidate you may spend not more than 2 hours. The candidate appears in 5 minutes. The candidate is gone. You see, so it's not cast in stone. Because on days that you think the ranking member will go full haul, he surprises you and says, "I have no question." Then as the whip, you want to manage your business. So as much as possible, you want to program as many as is reasonably possible to vet in a day. When we get tired, when exhaustion sets in later in the day, we can offload to the next day. But this one, they just decided. I'm still searching for what caused their decision not to continue with the vetting on Thursday. They won't tell me. But something must have snapped, somewhere. And they just said, no way, they won't continue. Otherwise, we've done vetting 10 p.m., 11 p.m. We know it's the time. After these times, there will be no vetting for this committee for a long time, except for Supreme Court and that thing. So, when the season is here, it's the committee's time to work. You may also not be using the prudent time or the time and resources of Parliament prudently when you know that you could do 6 and yet you program for 3. So these are balancing act. But going forward, I agree with you that where there's so much consensus building, these things are easily manageable. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chief Whip.
It's my sister.
What do you think about the minority leader's reaction to the clerk?
They are sisters too. They are family too. They are families. So it's difficult to find the Honorable Apenyo Makin take to Auntie Gifty, as we call her, the clerk, to the committee that way, in that manner. Politics. It's politics that will make a brother do that to a sister. Otherwise, there was no need to label her NDC clerk. That tarring, that labeling was totally unnecessary. But politics makes man do the unthinkable sometimes. And so I wasn't surprised when the apology came, because my brother, for him to apologize, he must have really considered the matter and saw that it was proper to apologize. So unfortunate as it was, but Gifty, I've told her, those are also the hazards of a job. When I was suspended, she told me that's the hazards of my job. So I asked her to take it in her stride. It was terrible, very emotionally challenging for her and the family. But when the apology came, I'm sure it settles it.
So you agree that maybe the occupational hazards are getting a bit more hazardous? Would you say that?
I agree with you, especially when by deliberate design we're encouraging more women to get into spaces that were hitherto left for men. Not just the mainstream politicking, but agencies and public services like parliamentary service that help the political machinery to move. You need more women to come in. So when women get to this level, you need to encourage them. You don't have to be so hard on them. You know what I mean? So we want to, they must also be hardy and tough, that this matter shouldn't get to them too much. Because they need to be here, they need to work with us.
Mr. Chairman, this kind of disruptive behavior, if I can put it that way, because that day was disruptive, there's never happened on the appointments committee before. Do you agree?
Yes, yes, I agree. It has never, but you see, it's about the decision of a caucus. It's not really the committee. It's the caucus on the committee that took that decision and took the decision to disrupt. So it wasn't one member of that caucus that did it. It was the entire group. They decided that vetting won't continue. They'll disrupt, they'll pull cables, they'll raise chairs, tables. So it was a decision. And you know, in Parliament, when the caucus takes a decision, they are all bound. So we've had chaotic scenes on the floor because a certain caucus took that decision. So it became chaotic. So people should understand how Parliament works. It's not an individual decision. It was a group decision that the group, this is all we'll do. And they did it, they carried it out. So the damnation and the condemnation must go to the group, not the individual members. Because the individuals were only executing the direction of the group and the group leader. I am sure that if the group leader has yelled that day that it's okay, let's go, I'm sure that marching order, every one of them would have followed.
Chief Whip, you agree that in the 8th Parliament, there were a couple of instances where there were some disruptions. If I recall, about 2 or 3. But there was never a probe, per se, like what Speaker has established now. Do you agree that perhaps this is a time for us to review certain behaviors that are showing up but are not that parliamentary?
Yes. For instance, when the night you and I and we voted for Speaker Gbagbe, you saw when a group decided that one of them should go and chew ballot paper, go and grab the ballot paper. That was the decision by the group. And one person went to execute it. It resulted in chaos. They brought in soldiers, they brought in the police. My leader then, the Honorable Haruna Idrisu, actually requested for an inquiry, but somehow it was ignored. Maybe an inquiry from outside, because an inquiry was to be about us. So the inquiry should have been by a body from outside. They will appear and give testimony. I was shocked for 2 hours that night. Taste, as it were, because we're in the forefront. So, yes, increasingly in a short span of, should I say, 6 years or 5 years, we've had some recurrent sins in Parliament. That isn't good. In Parliament, you disagree, you register your protestation forcefully as it could be, then you walk out. You hold your press conferences as vociferously as you could, as frequently as you could, but you don't practically engage in physical disruptions. That is untoward. And so I agree that this inquiry be done, a report to be prepared, and recommendations made to guide government. So I'd come in my workaholic, in my normal, ordinary workaholic attire to soldier through the day. I didn't come with it. If I were to have if I had known that there would have been a fight in the evening, I would have been there in another attire. But not Fuku. But I came just to get the work done.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think moving forward, as you whip the cocoa